It's safe to say the unit command in Bannerlord has somewhat been improved from warband, going from basic commands to full formations, AI commanders in your army, and even transferring troops mid-battle. But often it can get a bit too much and a bit too complicated for some. So today I'm going to be showing you how to set up your army, how to use each command, and what situations they're best used in. This is the ultimate guide to army commanding in Mount and Blade 2, Bannerlord. First off, you have two parts to this: the initial army setup, including troops, units and party organization, and battle commands, where you get to know your troops and what commands to give them to win the day. Let's start with the initial army setup though. Going into your party, you will of course have all the men you have available to take to battle. Keep an eye out though for your wounded, as they will take up space in your party, but you won't be able to fight with them until they are fully healed. Once clicking on any troop, you can see the number of what unit they are in, from 1 to 8. This corresponds to your 1 to 8 number keys when you're in the battlefield. These units are pre-named as infantry, ranged, cavalry, horse archers, skirmisher, heavy infantry, light cavalry, and heavy cavalry. Now, most of the time you won't be using most of these units, but it's nice to have some spare so you can split off your troops if you need to later. Unfortunately, at this stage in the game, these cannot be named ourselves, but I'm sure someone will put a mod in because it's just a naming issue. It'd be great to be able to name our own units later in the game. With this though, I like to keep my infantry units solely as men that can form a shield wall, that have a shield equipped. Then I put my other infantry that have spears and maybe no shields in the heavy infantry unit. This can also be done vice versa, of course, if you want the names to match more. This means that I can put my shielded infantry in one row and my non-shielded infantry behind to protect them. But if I need to change this later and put them all in the same unit mid-battle, that can be done, as we'll get onto in a bit. Additionally, I like to put my cavalry and horse archers in the same unit instead of their default split units. It just makes it a little bit easier when commanding them all at once, especially since I don't normally have a massive amount of horse archers to command separately. But experiment, use all the unit slots or maybe just a few. Anytime within the battle, if you need to, you can still press 0, which will select everyone anyway. So that will ignore all the unit classes, so all charges and things like that can be done easier. But let's hop into the battle, and into the battlefield command. Once your troops are in their units, that is assigned to the corresponding number key. For example, all archers by default are on key 2, and all cavalry are on key 3. Once a unit you want to order is selected, jump to the function keys to give them that order. Selecting that unit, then pressing F1 will bring up the movement order menus. Within this F1 movement order menu, you can see all the other function keys now select different orders to give them. So, you press 2. That selects your archers. You press F1 to give them a movement order, then as follows. Pressing F1 again will make your troops hold position. You will be able to see arrows outlining the exact place that they will stand, and they will head to that point. They will not move unless they are told to, or they retreat. Pressing F2 in the movement menu will get them to follow you, self-explanatory. F3 is the charge, where the troop selecting will run to the nearest enemy. This can be an issue though, as sometimes the AI will chase down routing enemies and get pulled off from their formation and picked off by other enemies that are still in the fight. F4 in the movement menu advances your troops. They will walk forward in formation until meeting the enemy or told by you to stop. Yep, they just keep going. And the same can be done the other way. F5 in the movement menu will tell them to fall back and keep them going away from the enemy. Although keep in mind that they do keep their guard up and archers will continue to fire as you move back, so this isn't a full retreat. If they get too far though and you need to stop them quickly, press F1 to go back to the movement menu and F6. This will stop them in place. Often out of formation though, so I would say using the hold position is probably the best way to go here. The final order in the movement menu is hopefully the one that you'll use the least, and this is F7 to indicate a full retreat. Your men will run from battle and cannot be ordered from then on, so I really wouldn't bother, especially since you can hold tab anytime in the battle and retreat yourself with minimal casualties. That's movement done. But what if you're selecting a troop and you press F2 instead straight away? Well, this is pretty simple. It's just facing directions. Pressing F2 and then F1 will make your troops face the direction the indicating arrow is pointing. This can be good if they're firing at the wrong target, or your infantry aren't holding up their shields in the right direction to arrows if they've been flanked. You won't tend to use it all that much except against horse archers though, as their AI armies tend to stay together. But this is where pressing F2 and F2 again comes in useful. It automatically sets your troops to face the nearest enemy, and that is set to as a default. Now we've looked at the movement menu on the F1 key, the facing direction menu on the F2 key, but on the F key 3 is probably the most important and in-depth system. This is formations. After selecting your unit and pressing F3 to activate the formation menu, then you have a choice of 8 different formations. First off, your default being line formation. This is what your men will spawn in, and it's pretty good. They run fairly fast, they defend pretty well, and it's a decent all-round formation. Pressing F2 will put your men in a shield wall. Of course, it's only really useful if your men have shields, but this is the perfect defense against arrows that are positioned in front of you. F3 will put your men in loose formation, so this is good if you don't have shields, or I always put my archers in loose formation, especially if the enemy is lacking cavalry but perhaps has archers of their own, because it makes my men harder to hit. Putting your troops in a circle or square formations are pretty similar. You won't find all that many differences between them. Both are great for countering cavalry. Your troops will also protect each other's backs if they have shields, so it's good for going up against horse archers when projectiles are coming from all angles and your men need to guard each other's backs. F6 will put your troops in the skyline formation, a wedge shape used mostly for cavalry, giving them a better punch through enemy infantry when they charge into them. F7 puts your men in column, probably the least used command, but it makes them run a little bit faster, although saying that they're completely vulnerable, and to be fair, Bannerlord maps are too small to bother with the column formation before you get ambushed by the enemy. And of course F8 will give you scatter, but that sort of does what it says on the tin. With the complicated stuff out the way though, the other commands are pretty simple. Going back to a unit you want to select, instantly pressing F4 will toggle fire at will and hold fire. Archers will get out and put away bows and swords. Infantry and cavalry will do the same with throwing projectiles. Easy. Another easy toggle is selecting cavalry units and pressing F5. This will make them mount or dismount their horses. Great for storming points or holding areas or taking small towns, but other than that, just keep your guys on horseback if you can help it. And these last two are the interesting ones. You may have noticed them at the bottom of your command menu, but never really understood what they mean until now. Selecting any unit using the number keys and proceeding to press F6 will delegate the command of that unit. The sergeant in the unit will take control and give it orders themselves. It basically means that the units become AI controlled. They are a bit stupid though, so I wouldn't really recommend it unless you want your archers to lead the charge into melee or your cavalry to just sit at the edge of the battle and watch. And here we are, the final command that you can give in game. And it's not really a command at all. You may remember in the first section when we were sorting our troops into units in the party menu, I mentioned you can actually change this in the battle. Well, selecting a unit and clicking F7 will give you a menu with all your units, and a slider to say how many troops you want to transfer. As you can see, I transferred a few of my infantry into my arch units, so now if I select archers on my number 2 key, then those infantry units that I transferred will be under that same command. This can be useful for protecting certain arch units maybe, having a few infantrymen stick with them whilst the rest of your infantry go off into battle, maybe a few horse archers tag along with your melee cavalry as well. I mean, I don't think many people actually use it, but it's nice to have another layer of depth to the troop commanding throughout the game. But that's it. That's my guide to commanding armies in Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. I really hope it was useful, and if it was, please leave a like and subscribe, and maybe even leave a comment on what else you'd like help with throughout the game. But without further ado, please click the link in the description to join my giveaway for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, and I would hurry because there's only a few days left to enter. But other than that guys, thank you for watching, and until then, I will see you in the next one.